Hey lovely people, I'm Cameron. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to today's video. I hope you're doing okay. You're doing well. Deep breaths. We're gonna have a great time. It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm excited about today's video. It's gonna be pretty simple. I'm gonna say pretty short and sweet. It's nothing special. I'm just walking you through my current brow routine. Now, one, I don't do this every day because I don't wear makeup every day. However, it's my go-to. I've tried a lot of different brow products, brow techniques, and this is what I find works the best for me, that I feel like get the most control and I get the most natural finished product, which is what you're looking at right now. I do want to acknowledge my privilege here as a genetically blessed brow haver. Thank you, Mom and Dad and God. Bless all the way up. However, I do have my bald spots, my areas of concern, my unevenness. So I'm going to show you what I do to even things out, clean it up, and snatch them, just a little bit, get them a little snatch. Hello friends, we're up close and personal. So really quickly, the first thing I'm going to do is remove any excess makeup that I have from on top of my brows. When I do my base, I like to get my foundation pretty close and pretty up inside the layers of my brows because I tend to get pretty red and a little bit pink there, and I just like to neutralize that. So with that comes ashy brows. So I'm just taking a cotton pad with a little bit of micellar water and I'm just going over, revealing my true self. And now using a dry spot just to dab and dry off my brows. Okay, next up, and I'm gonna get real close for this one, I'm gonna show you what my brows look like when they need a little extra love. So I don't get my brows done. Again, thank you, Mom and Dad, I love you so much. That's one less thing for me to worry about in this life. However, I'll get a couple little stragglers and a little, free willies under there that just need to be maintained. So I'm gonna take some tweezers and pluck the little stragglers that I've got under here and then leave it at that. I normally prefer to do this fresh out of the shower when my skin's a little bit more subtle and can handle it, but that's just not the case. So pray for me. Oh man, I totally have an eyebrow hair that's like right on my nose. Alright, moving along. Quickly assessing, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to accomplish while doing my brows today? So you may be able to tell, as my brows get closer toward the middle of my face, toward my nose, right here in the beginning of them, they're a little bit sparse. I do want to fill in a little bit more to create more of a gradient, and then I like to strengthen the tails a little bit more and even them out. Also, I think like most of us, these girls are sisters, not twins. They might even be cousins on some days. Most days, especially if I have some time to really devote to my brows, I like to use a pencil, and not just any type of brow pencil, typically the really thin, like micro pencils, not necessarily the wider angled ones. I feel like I don't get as much control with them, so one of my current favorites is this Precisely My Brow pencil from Benefit Cosmetics, and I use the shade 5. Since my head hair is dark brown with a little bit of red to it depending on what lighting we're in, but it's pretty brown. It's dark, but it's brown. My eyebrows, however, are black. They are dark black, but that doesn't mean that I like to use actually black brow products, because then it just looks like I used a Sharpie or a pen to draw them in, and it's just a little bit too harsh. So the shade number 5 from Benefit is a nice dark brown with a little bit of an ash tone to it, and it's not too cool. It has a little bit of warmth to it. One of the main reasons that I like using pencils like this is that they come with spoolies on the other end, little spoolie brushes. If they don't, I'll use one of my own because I think the spoolie is the key player when it comes to doing your brows with a pencil. We'll talk more about the why in a minute, but first I'm going to brush through my brows, get them all going in the direction that I want to, and this lets me see where the spots that I need to fill in are and what shape I'm trying to get toward. Now that they're up, I go to the other side of my pencil with the tip and I start in the inner corner. So you can tell this is my little baldest spot. This is the actual bald spot, but this is my little, receding hairline. So I start really, really lightly. applying barely any pressure. Again, this is to create that shadow, not mimicking brow hairs, not trying to draw in brow strokes. I'm trying to create a shadow. My brow hairs are pretty thick themselves. They're kind of like dense hairs. So I want to be really light and I want to apply light pressure to my skin, but I also have to fight through to actually get to my skin through my brows. So it's this really interesting balance of pressure but no pressure. So I just keep doing that through the density of my hairs. I'm not going onto the outer perimeters of my skin just yet. I'm not drawing out a shape because I'm not ready to do that yet. Basically just tracing and following the lines, and then as I get toward the tail, I just lightly fill in again with the hairs that are there. One of the reasons I like this specific pencil from Benefit is just the texture of it. It's got a nice creaminess to it. It's not too dry, although I do like dry pencils because they're a little more forgiving. Sometimes when they're too thick, almost like an eyeshadow kohl, then you got some crazy brows going on sometimes. So I feel like I can get some good control over it, but it helps deposit the color pretty well. If, like me right now, you find yourself going over the same place to try and get some color and then it's a little bit too intense or you're starting to look too drawn in, that's okay. That's where the spoolie comes in. Don't stop yet. Tracing. Ow! Accidentally going over the secret hidden pimple that I have right there. Then relax. Deep breath, take a step back, and assess. I think that's the key to doing your brows. You just gotta like go step by step, because the second you go too much, it's hard to reel it back in, right? So take a deep breath and let's look. Let's see what we need. I'm gonna put the cap back on, bring out our spoolie, brush through. This just helps to diffuse the lines and blend it in with your brow hairs so that it looks more natural. And then this gives you, again, a better idea of what work you still have cut out for you, or if you can stop. One thing to be careful of, as you brush through, you are getting the pencil color on your spoolie, so be careful to not go too much on your skin, on the perimeter, because you'll deposit that color and then you just have smudged brow product on your skin. I've at least experienced that a handful of times. Okay, checking back with my pencil. I still want to fill in a little bit more on this side, on this inner corner, but I want to be careful to not give myself too harsh of an angle because that just starts to look a little unnatural on me, and still going through the rest of my brows. Because this is a warmer color, warmer than my brow hairs, I want to make sure that it's fully throughout my brow rather than just focusing on the front part where I really need it, because you'll be able to tell the difference in tone, and again, it'll look unnatural. So you want it to be as cohesive throughout as possible. Starting to go up toward my arch just to kind of redefine that, and doing the same on the other side. So I'm starting to get a little bit bolder in my shaping and going outside of the lines and creating my own. This brow tends to have a little bit of a dip in the front, so I'm doing that light motion that barely gives me that shadow just to fill it in and maybe give it a little bit more structure. Gonna extend this tail just a little bit to match the other one a little better, and then back with the spoolie. Spoolie. Okay, one last time going in the front. This is the part that I always have the hardest time with because I just don't ever want to do too much, because it's hard to take it back, you know? And ultimately, I think it's really important to remind ourselves, and ultimately remind myself, that it's not about being perfect carbon copies of each other, because one, that's just stressful and it's unrealistic. It's not natural. Our facial features are special and unique. It's cheesy, but it's true, and I have to remind myself of this, especially being in the beauty space all the time. You know, it's easy to look at these edited campaign photos or just to see people on Instagram who are finding their angles and they've got all this symmetry. Symmetry is beautiful, but it's not necessary, and symmetry doesn't equal beauty. So especially when it comes to brows, to save yourself the anxiety attack and the lack of deep breathing, just do what you can and move on. And I really think going in small layers, this is my philosophy with all makeup, because I have had my fair share of times where I wish that I could start completely over, and I end up having to because it's too much. But start with a little bit and then keep looking, keep assessing, and just feel the vibe. Check in with yourself, check in with your brows. See how they're doing, see what they need, but little by little, it will help. With that said though, I'm deciding to end it here with the filling in and with the color, because I think if I continue to go in, I run the risk of it being a little too heavy, especially because I want to keep filling in this part, and the heavier it is in the inner corner of the brows, the just more intense it seems, and that's not my vibe for today. So I'm gonna leave it as it is. I'm gonna feel happy and comfortable. And the last part that I like to do is follow up with a clear brow pomade or brow gel. I've tried a handful. I have a handful. Right now with me, I have a little sample of the Benefit 24-hour brow setter. I've used this multiple times. I love it. It has a really firm hold, and it does have a little bit of a shine to it, but the brows will stay in place. Unless you have really, really coarse brows, you might need something a little bit thicker, or you might need a couple layers, but this is great. I've got Clear Glossier Boy Brow, which is an OG selection for me and for many people. It has a little bit less hold, but it still does a really good job of grooming the brows and conditioning your brows without feeling crunchy. This one might have a tendency to feel crunchy, but that's if you use a lot. I also have this Lash and Brow Gel Mascara from Essence. Essence is a brand that I shop at Ulta primarily, but I think they might be at drugstores as well. They just have super reasonable prices, and I picked this up a few months ago just out of total curiosity, and I was just kind of comparing clear brow products. I really enjoy this. It's probably in the middle of these two hold wise, with this being the strongest, this being the weakest, but still a really good contender. I think it holds up pretty nicely. I love all of these. On any given day, I'll just kind of go for what's top of my pile. I'm gonna try this one. I have been really liking and almost preferring this gel lately just because of the component and the packaging itself. Most of the time, brow gels come in these really small components with these really teeny tiny brushes, which I appreciate because it helps you get a lot of precision in certain areas and brush your brows in the direction that you like, but sometimes it just feels too small. I like longer wands, I like longer brushes, so this is a top choice for me right now. Again, I use really light pressure, especially because I already have my foundation down and because I have my brow pencil down. Both layers of color that I don't want to budge and I don't want to smudge onto my skin and create this uneven shape. So really, really lightly brushing up and over just to create this arch and a little bit of a smooth finish. I then will take my finger and lightly press toward my skin, but brush it kind of up like this, like that, just for added hold and added insurance that the brow gel is going to do what it needs to do. Got to get my little forehead creases. This happens all the time. So I'm done with filling and holding the brows, and now one of my last favorite little steps is adding a touch of highlighter to the brow bone. So I'm going to use my ColourPop highlighter, Super Shock in Double Down, and this little tiny Morphe brush, one of my favorites for inner corner and brow highlight, and just take it right at the brow bone for just a little extra dimension and razzle dazzle. This is also helping to detract from the little bit of redness that I have from plucking my brows. That redness can be corrected with concealer, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with that hack for defining and reshaping your brows, but it's just not something that I do on a regular basis. This helps to kind of conceal and detract from that. And now for the actual last step, just a little extra powder. When I'm putting down my base and my foundation and concealer before I get to my brows, I like to use my foundation brush to really get up in between to cancel out the redness that's there, but I also do get really, really shiny. So I add powder all throughout, but I always have to do one last little powdering because this place, for some reason, just gets so shiny. This also helps to take away any shine that may come from the gel that you use. The one that I just used is really, really nice because it has a very natural finish. It's super comfortable, it holds really nicely, but it also doesn't have any added shine, so I don't really need to add powder. But if you do, if you want it to have a little more of a natural matte finish, you can just do a really light dusting of powder on top and then call it a day. Alright y'all, that's it from me and my brows today. Thank you as always for hanging in, and thanks for watching. I don't know why, but I think brow videos, watching other people do their brows, is probably one of my favorite parts about makeup and beauty tutorials and videos. I really do just like the way that it changes the face, even if it's a slight change or if it's super dramatic. The brows really do a lot of talking. So this is what I like to choose on a pretty regular basis. This is the fullness that I like, this is the shape that I like, and that's that. Before we go, I have a couple quick favors to ask of you. First off, in the comments below, let me know what your favorite product to use for your brows is. What is your go-to? Do you like the dip pomades? Do you like the regular spoolie pomades? You know, I'm thinking like Glossier Boy Brow, those types. Do you like pencils like me? Do you like powders? Pick your poison, let me know. I'm excited to hear what you gotta say. It's just interesting, and it's a little peek behind the curtain, behind all of your brow curtains. I don't know if that made sense. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. It really means a lot. Thank you so much. But that's it. I so appreciate you. Please take care, be well, and I'll see you next time. Love you. Bye. Your car is locked.